Hey guys, welcome to a brand new video on my channel, Meg's Movies. If you are new to this channel, this is basically where I talk to you guys about my passion for movies. This goes from collections, hauls, reviews, and to today's video, so let's get into it. Okay, so we are back doing my original versus remake series. However, this is a spin-off, in a sense. So I am doing live action versus animation for the next few weeks. Might continue on into next month, or it might be a bit of a pause, and then we go to when the Lilo and Stitch remake comes out. Then I'll catch up on more then. We'll see how I feel. But for this week's one, to start us off, I thought I'd go back to the very beginning. And of course, a lot of people probably think it's 101 Dalmatians. It's not. It's actually Jungle Book from 1994. That is the first live-action remake we got from Disney based on their Disney classics. Now, this was a first-time watch for me as well. And basically, I wanted to include this one, 101 Dalmatians, and Sorcerer's Apprentice, because in a way they do kind of count, because they are remakes of the original in a sense, whilst also not being added to the modern style remakes that we have gotten recently. I have seen also a lot of people include these three on their rankings list, so I thought, why not include it myself? But yeah, so we are looking at the 1967 animated classic, going up against the very first remake in 1994. Now, with this series, not only do I talk about my thoughts on the original film and the remake film, but I also like to get you guys involved as well. So I put a poll up, well, try to put a poll up, and get your guys' opinion as to which one you prefer. So you guys went for the original. Yes. You guys went for the animated film. But the question is, which one do I prefer? Do I prefer the animated film or the live action? So let's get into it by talking about the animated film. I'm going to be very brief about talking about the animated film because I have done a review for it. Now, this will happen throughout this series for the simple fact of I am planning to review every Disney classic animated film we have, which is 62, 3, 4, somewhere there. We're in the 60s now. And the day before I do my original versus remake, or maybe 2 days before, we'll see what happens scheduling wise, I will be reviewing the animated film because I'd love to be able to say that I have seen every Disney classic film and reviewed them. So I'm only going to briefly go over the animated film. So what I will say is that for me, this isn't a top 10 animated film for me. I did enjoy it. I do have fun with it. And to be honest, it has grown on me. But what I will say, it's more like, probably like top 15, top 20. But no, it is an enjoyable film. I love the animation in this, not gonna lie. I miss hand-drawn animation. I think it's fun. I think the characters are fun. Shere Khan, he's not a badass villain, but he's quite a sarky villain. And I kind of like my villains a bit sarky, not gonna lie. But I also prefer a badass villain. So he is no Scar, but he's certainly an Ursula, certainly a Dr. Facilier, he's got that sarkiness to him. But Mowgli as a character, I think he's adorable. I love the fact that this is about a boy growing up in the forest and sort of like growing up around animals and then obviously going back to the man village. So with the animated film, I will say I really enjoy the whole story aspect of it. I know it's based on the book, which I have not read. I did state that in my animated review, but I'll state it here again just in case. It's one I actually haven't read. So this is going off what I think it might be roughly based on. I don't know the full story. But for an animated classic, it's actually adorable. It has some pretty tense-ish moments, but it's not as tense as things like The Lion King when they have that certain scene, or sort of like the more darker Disney films. But it's not a bad film, and the songs are fun. I will say it's not my go-to Disney soundtrack. I do like Bare Necessities. I will say that was growing on me. At first I did find it kind of annoying, but now it's sort of grown on me. And the only other one I remember from that film is I wanna be like you, talk like you, walk like you too. Sorry, my voice is going. But no, the animated film is a classic and it is an enjoyable watch. But what about the remake? What about the live action film? The very first one we got. Let's talk about it. So, like I said, this is the first time watch for me. Did not know it was directed by Stephen Sommers. That was a shock to the system when that came up. Because he done The Mummy, which is one of my absolute favourite Brendan Fraser films of all time. And also done Van Helsing. Yeah. That shocked me when I saw that credit come up. And I could kind of see it, you know. I feel like he did so. I feel like it was sort of like a building block to The Mummy. As weird as it sounds, putting it that way. But that's what I feel like. I feel like he was building up to The Mummy and Van Helsing with this. But what I also will say is, I don't know how much of a remake I would class it as. Because technically it's got Mowgli, it's got Baloo, Bagheera, you know, Shere Khan, so it's got all that. But instead, it sort of like focuses more on the humans than the animals, whereas the animated film was quite based on the animal side of things. But instead, it sort of focuses on Mowgli, and in this one, he has a friend called Kitty before he ends up getting lost in the woods. So that's another thing that's different. So this is what I like about a remake, is when they do things differently. But like I said, I have not read the book, so I don't know which one is more towards the book or which one's more away from the book. So I'm still sort of in two minds about that. Some actors in here I did not realise were in this, like Sam Neill, Jurassic Park. Took me a minute to recognise him, but I got there eventually. And then I swore I heard John Cleese's voice, and then later on I saw him and I was like, yep, that's John Cleese. So there's a couple of well-known actors in this. I have seen some of the other ones in other things, like I think the character's name is Billy or William, because they call him two different names. He was in Liar Liar. He played the sort of wannabe dad that was meeting up with the parent. You'd know which one it is if you've seen Liar Liar. So this one sort of like, it's, the animals don't talk, but the funny thing is that even though they don't talk, you certainly get the emotions in that from them, as much as they are real life animals, and some of them do have sort of like a blank look on them. You can still sort of get it, even though you don't have the voiceovers and all that. You do kind of get it, and it's weird to say that about a film. I will say as well, it's weird to be focusing more on the human side of things than it is the animals. Obviously, it was all to do with Mowgli, sort of like he came across Kitty, and then all of a sudden, he ends up learning to sort of like speak more man and things like that. So I will say, it nods to certain things. I mean, there's a scene with, I think it's an orangutan. Is it orangutan? That's King Louis, basically. And they do this little thing where he puts a crown on his head and he's like, you know, he's all like that. And it just makes me laugh. I don't know why, it just did. But when I think about how it's supposed to be a remake, I sort of feel like it's more of a readaptation in my eyes. So it's sort of like one of those, I think it's a rock and a hard place when it comes to remakes like this, because it is based on a book. So at the end of the day, you can have multiple versions of this. For example, you've got so many Mummy films now, and it's like, it's tough to decide whether or not what you count as a remake and what you don't. Now, I get why a lot of people count this as a remake because, like I said, it is Mowgli. It is the story of him in the woods growing up, and then, of course, the only added thing is that we've got more of the human civilization, which we don't really get that until the Jungle Book animated sequel in Jungle Book 2. What sentence that was, I've got no idea. But with this one, it was certainly different, and I will say 100% that the 2016, 17, whenever we got that Jungle Book, that is 100% a remake of this. But I can get why, like I said, I can get why people class it as a remake. But it's not a bad film. It's enjoyable. It does have its moments, I will admit that. It's not overly great. And I will say the ending's a bit but then I also thought that about the animated film, so it's one of those, it's very weird to explain, and it's sort of like, it's a tough one. It's like, when I think of these remakes, 101 Dalmatians, hands down, I count that as a remake. But then Sorcerer's Apprentice. Now, when it comes to that one, I know I'm talking about something else instead of Jungle Book right now, but when it comes to the Sorcerer's Apprentice, people include it on their list because it's based on a segment of Fantasia. It's not actually a remake of Fantasia, it's based on a segment. So it's sort of a remake in that sense, but it only nods to one part of the film. So it's sort of like, does that really count as a remake? I'd love to know your thoughts on this, guys. Like, what would you classify as a remake? Like the Charlie's Angels, the new film we got this year. I'm babbling on now. The Charlie's Angels film we got, not this year, a couple of years ago, sorry. I would see it as a remake to the 2000 film because technically it's a reboot slash sequel. It's a requel. So to me, that kind of counts as a remake. But when it connects to the original, does that still count? Yeah. Anyway, enough babbling on about that. But this live action film is actually adorable. It's kind of cute. And it's nice to see that they didn't go with CGI. I will say there's a couple of green screen moments that did not look that great. But then it's the 90s. This is when we were back starting getting the CGI and things like that. But overall, it's not a bad remake. If you want to see it as a remake, it's not a bad one. I've seen a lot worse remakes. So I'm quite happy to say that I'm going to count it as a remake for now. But I think what I'll do is I'll say it's a remake, but it's kind of like Homeward Bound in a sense, where it's a Disney remake. So to me, the modern one that we got a couple of years ago, that's the official remake. This one's the sort of unofficial remake we've got. That's the way I'm going to put it. It's the unofficial remake we got. But like I said, a lot of people do put it in their remakes list. So hence why I included it. But the question is, which one did I prefer? Did I prefer the animated film or the live action film? I am going to have to go with the animated film. I think I just love the fact that Mowgli's more of a little kid in this one. It's sort of like, he deals with a bit more in that. I feel like the remake is good, but it's just not as good as the animated film. But what I like about it is that it did try something a little bit different. So I will give them their dues on that. I think it's a very nice film. Honestly, it's one I wouldn't mind adding to my collection maybe in the future. I'm not really sure. It's one of those, I'll watch it again, see how I feel then, and then maybe add it. But I'm glad I watched it because it was nice to watch something that Stephen Sommers has done other than The Mummy, but also to see other actors that I've known for more bigger roles in something so small. So that was kind of nice. But yeah, so the next Original Versus remake, if I remember correctly, the poll will be up after this video goes up, will be a redo of my 101 Dalmatians one. I'm not going to count Cruella as a remake because that's more of a prequel. But I will be including it in a ranking of the films. I would like to do a ranking of all the Jungle Book movies, specifically Disney and maybe the sort of like the main Jungle Book films. We'll see how it goes. But no, not a bad little remake. Not a bad little remake. But yes, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then do give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to this channel, then go ahead, hit that subscribe button and also notification bell down below to be notified when I post. And leave me your comments and thoughts on this. Did you enjoy the animated film more than the remake? Let me know your thoughts down below. And I'll see you guys next time.